was watching Heretic last night, and it was lit because I didn't watch the trailer. I knew nothing about the film. I didn't know what was gonna happen or what was gonna come on. And so I just sat down and watched Heretic and pretty much just took everything in for the first time, like whilst I watched the film, innit? And it was lit. If you haven't seen Heretic, definitely watch it. It's a horror film, but it's not really got much horror to it. It's just a bit dark and twisted. So it's more like a thriller, psychological one. And it talks about like religion and how all the different types of religions, or at least the main three, the big three, Judaism, Christianity, and Islam, are just iterations of the same story, told slightly differently each time. And following just one and claiming that that's the only truth, that one is the one, and that is, the this is it, this is the religion, this is the real one. You can see how like that would be a lie then, innit? So this is something that I've also thought about and had a view on since I was quite young, maybe 14, 15, because I was brought up in a Catholic family, and like that was all we was taught and that was all we knew. And we would go to church every Sunday, pray the rosary, like at the height of it, like every single day. And obviously I had friends from different religions, and in school you learn about different religions and you can kind of start to grasp the fact that like they're all very similar and teach similar things. And when I was young, I was quite curious too, so I'd always watch like videos on like, I don't know, religion and the history of it all, and like what's really the truth and what really isn't, and just all that sort of stuff. So I kind of gathered from a young age that like, yeah, they're all kind of just the same story being retold slightly differently, and people are just claiming that that's the one that's the truth, innit? So it was interesting when I started watching. I was like, okay, this is kind of mad still. So the guy sets out though basically to help these two Mormon girls uncover the truth as to like why they believe their religion is the right one, whether they're doing it because they're hiding from something else, or like, I don't know, whether they also don't see the same like truth behind it all, and whether they're just being oblivious to it, naive to it, or I don't know, like ignorant to it, or whatever you might call it. And yeah, it just starts to get a bit like weird and sinister and stuff, but it's a good film though. The concept's sick, and it had me thinking about something that I wanted to speak about for a while, and I didn't know how to put it, but I guess we can call it like views from religion. I don't know, we'll see. But I think the best way to go around it really and truly is to kind of understand how this affected my life, just like from quite young to growing up to adulthood and stuff like that, because I don't think there's really any other way to tell it, But yeah, in essence, I grew up in a religious household, and I was taught that that was the right religion. The other religions ain't the right ones, and you just have to accept that because that's true, and you have to follow it whether you like it or not. And it didn't really make sense to me as a kid, because you try to make things incredibly simple to understand the world, especially when you're mad young. And the easiest way to do that is you believe what you see, innit? Like what you see and what you have, what there's evidence for, that's what you believe in. That's what you, I guess, take as fact. That's what you take as like gospel, innit? So the fact that there was no real evidence to suggest that my religion was the right one, or in fact any other religion was the right one, like the one, this is it, you know what I mean? Was kind of hard to believe and hard to get a grasp of, innit? So going church every Sunday felt a little pointless because I didn't actually believe what I was there for. And I would feel like I'm only going here every Sunday for the sake of doing it. I get told when to stand, sit, kneel, reply, sing, come up for like, you know, bread and wine. And it just kind of felt like doing it for the sake of doing it. And it didn't really make sense to me. The same thing with praying a rosary and all that sort of stuff. So I still had to accept it though, because that was the household that I lived in, all that sort of stuff. And I guess one of the ways that like I was made to accept it, or one of the ways that you feel as though you have to accept it, is through the concept of like heaven and hell, sin, and like things like that. Do you know what I'm saying? So the idea that if you don't follow these specific rules that we give you and what we tell you, then you're going to be committing sins. And if you are committing sins and you die and you haven't, I don't know, repented for them, and the only way that you can repent for your sins is by going to one of our priests and he'll do it for you, or things like this. And yeah, if you die, you are going to get judged, and you get judged for everything you do, including your sins. And then there's some sort of threshold between good and bad, and if you don't meet that threshold, you're going straight to hell, and you're never going to heaven, and you're never seeing like the other people who are in heaven, which might be friends and family, ever again. Is quite a fearful thought, you know, to put into like someone's mind. And that fear really makes someone stick to that religion. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, now that I think about it, yeah, now that I think about it, that's quite like a powerful thought, almost manipulative, like to make someone believe that, nah, this is the right one. Do you know what I'm saying? Like paranoia almost. And growing up around that, you start to soak that in, especially from quite young. And I think that's probably why I was so fearful of the truth, because sometimes the truth hurts. And if you're told that doing bad against other people is going to make you go hell, like, you obviously don't want to hurt that person. So if you think that telling the truth is going to hurt them, well, you're going to pick not hurting them over telling them the truth. And that was like a thought process and a way of living that I had to adapt to and adopt from quite young. And I took forward with me like throughout the majority of my life. And yeah, I don't know, man. I just don't see how that can be correct, innit? Or how that's okay. But we'll get into that, like going deeper into it a little bit more. But that's pretty much how I live. And obviously, the older you get, like when you're now 15, 16, getting like 17, 18, like you want to be a bit more adventurous. Like you want to go out with your friends all the time. You want to start trying new things. You want to, like, I don't know, like just experiment, like start experimenting for yourself, innit? And obviously in this world, there's a lot of good and bad. And I think there's also a lot of grey areas where for some people it's good, for other people it's bad. And I think there's so many experiences to be had in this world that to tell somebody or make someone feel as though they can't have those experiences simply because you didn't have them, or you might have had them in one particular way, that I don't think is the right approach to helping someone understand life a little better. Do you know what I'm saying? If you really do want them to grow and mature, I think offering somebody at that age like a safe space to try things and know that no matter what happens, we're still going to be here to look after you. Just the only thing we would appreciate the most is like, just tell us the truth and we'll be honest with you too about everything. Like, that's probably the most healthiest way to help someone grow and understand the world and really mature in it. But anyway, the point that I'm trying to make here is that religion plays a big part in how you view the world. And I think if you live your life in constant fear of making a mistake, because then it will be a sin, and then sin means you're going hell, and hell means that's for the rest of eternity, and you're never going to see God and all your friends and family again, then you can kind of see now how like having such a view on life can make you incredibly scared of life, because mistakes are inevitable. Running into something that's like quote unquote bad is inevitable. Like, these are things you cannot control, and these are things that you cannot like play creator of fortune here. Do you know what I mean? Like, you can't dictate whether your life is only going to be good and you're not going to see bad and mistakes. And we're human. Like, the Bible tells us, if you read it properly, that mistakes are going to be made. That's inevitable. You are going to slip up. Like, there's going to be times where you don't get it right. And not being able to accept that, I think, is denial, isn't it? It's not really the truth. So you can't be fearful of that. This is also another part of it too, where you also can't judge. Do you know what I'm saying? And I think religion teaches to be a little judgmental if you're misled by it, because if obviously there is the concept of like sinning and good and bad and judgment, that means hell or heaven for eternity after you die, then you know, you would pride yourself in only doing the good quote unquote thing all the time. And if someone around you is doing quote unquote the bad thing all the time, because apparently you know what that is for them all the time across the board completely, there has to be some level of judgment there. So you can almost kind of see how being misled by a religion, if you don't like look at it for yourself and understand it for yourself and grasp it for yourself, can make you do the contrary to what it's actually telling you to do. So yeah, man, as a kid, like when you're at that age, then you want to be adventurous, and so did I, man. So did I. And I went out, like, I done a whole bunch of like things that I think a regular 15, 16, 17, 18-year-old would do: partying, drinking, smoking, like, I don't know, just girls and being, just having fun and being out there, innit? And I think like living in the household that I did and having to hide that from my parents too, just kind of added to the previous view that I had of fearing the truth because of how it might make someone feel or look at you or perceive you or judge you or whatever it might be, like, it reinforces that same belief, innit? So that's something that you take with you. So you do all these things outside the house, but inside you can't tell the truth, and you hide it. So you do that because you're scared of what somebody else might say of you, might have an opinion of you. And at that age, that's important, because you do actually care about what your parents think of you. You do actually care about what your peers think of you, because that's just how a person at that age feels and is. That's how they function. Do you know what I'm saying? So yeah, man, having to, I don't know, hide the truth and hide certain things and lie around certain things to have the feeling of being accepted, you take that with you then from those years moving forward to when you get older. And this all comes from, like, again, religious views where you're kind of just misled by them if you're not taking in the message for what it's supposed to be. And you can now see how, like, it shapes, and it has shaped my life growing up from when I was quite young, like up until early adulthood years. And it took me a while to recognize that, and it took me a while to really understand what was going on there in order for me to kind of like stop thinking with that same manner and not fear the truth no more. And a big thing that I realized when I first started reading the Bible for myself and understanding it differently and being able to recognize all these things that had happened in my life previously and now choosing to live life a little differently, one big thing that I've realized is what the Bible tells you to seek really and truly is the truth. And that means the truth in absolutely everything, not just what you want to be true. There's two types of truth in this world, yeah. There's the objective truth and the subjective truth. So just to give an example of what that looks like, right? An objective truth is my cat Fiddleice will always be a cat if he loses his tail, loses a leg, grows another head, I don't know, grows a second tail, cuts off his willy and balls. Like, he's always going to be a cat. Objective truth. And a subjective truth, though, might be, to me, Fiddleice is a very friendly, affectionate and loving cat. And to somebody else, that might not be true. To them, Fiddleice might be a shy, timid and scared cat. Do you know what I'm saying? So how I view Fiddleice holds truth to me, but it might not hold true to somebody else. And how they view Fiddleice might be true to them, but it doesn't hold true for me. So those are the two truths that I'm talking about here, yeah? So there's objective truths and subjective truths. And the Bible teaches you to seek the truth in everything, not just your own subjective truths, also the objective truths as well. And the thing about being so heavily into a religion and now kind of obscuring what it's actually supposed to be telling you is that I think you only choose to focus maybe on the subjective truths. And if you only choose to focus on that, you start to obscure the objective truths. And now things are very like blurry. They don't seem like it doesn't seem like some of the things you say stand on two legs, and your view in the world is a little skewed. And maybe sometimes that's why people don't really understand why you see the way you see the world, innit? And it's not to say that you're supposed to understand the world the same as everybody else, but I think if you have grasped like a decent balance of seeing the truth and being honest, being an integral person, following your own self and your own instincts and like what you think is the right thing to do, and also adhering to a set of rules that allows you to conduct yourself to be a good person. Like, there's just some things that like everyone who's like that shares and understands. And they all come from different backgrounds, different cultures, different religions, like different, I don't know, places of the world. But we still share like all these similar thoughts and processes in common. Do you get what I'm saying? So yeah, if you're only focusing on the subjective truth, then like a lot of other things you obscure a lot of other things, and then I don't know, man, you just kind of start seeing the world a little bit differently, and it's a bit more skewed, and it just doesn't really make sense. So I forgot the point that I was trying to make here. I really went ham on that point. Still, I can't lie. Um, but yeah, the point. Okay, so the point that I was trying to make here was that the Bible then teaches you to seek the truth, and you have to seek both. And in doing so, like I realized that like what's more important than in this world isn't being fearful of making mistakes and like doing things wrong, and I don't know, like maybe sometimes not getting it right. Do you know what I'm saying? And that being a sin or a mistake or like a bad thing or whatever it is. Like, it's not to care about that. It's not to like dwell on that so much to the point where you start to loathe in it and it really starts to eat you alive and consume you. No, fam. Like, the whole point is that you understand like just human nature a little bit better. You understand that like there's gonna be good times as well as bad times. There's gonna be times where you get things right as well as times where you get things wrong. Like, there's gonna be the highs and the lows. There's gonna be the smooth roads and the bumpy roads. Like, there's gonna be everything. So just be okay with it. Like, if you make a mistake, it's cool. No one's judging you, fam. So don't judge yourself. Because I think you do build your own environment. You are a constructor of your own environment. So if you heavily judge yourself for a lot of the things you do, inevitably you will judge everybody else, and you will feel like everybody else is judging you for that too. Do you see what I'm saying? But if you don't have that particular view in yourself, if you are very like judgment free of yourself, and you allow yourself the grace of like being okay after you make a mistake, so you can pick up the pieces and like learn, and then next time do things correctly or correct your mistakes or whatever it is, then like you feel a bit more light-hearted, like no one's judging you, and then you don't judge other people, and then inevitably other people don't judge you. Do you see what I'm saying? So you construct your own environment here. It's it's quite simple when you really think about it. And if life is then not more so about being scared of making mistakes and like doing all that sort of stuff, then and like, yeah, I don't know, sinning and then like going hell, whatever it is, like religion is, or the Bible and what it teaches you and it tells you to seek the truth and all that sort of stuff, like it's more so like an adventure of curiosity, fam. Or like, I don't know, like it almost becomes, well, I guess the point I was trying to make here was that if that's not the case, then what religion is about and should be about, or what following a religion is about and should be about, is always like seeking the truth. And if the truth is going to hurt someone, well, you have to put the truth on top of somebody else's like I don't want to say emotions or well-being or whatever, but the truth always has to come first, which is basically what I'm trying to say. Like, if you think it's going to hurt someone in that particular moment because the truth is a difficult thing to swallow at times, like you still have to go through that, because life isn't just about like smooth roads and smooth sailing. Do you know what I mean? Like, you have to have every experience in life and you have to be okay with that. And the reason why is because if you withhold that and then the truth comes out later, like it can be even more painful. So really and truly, like it's the merciful thing to do, fam. So yeah, so the truth has to come first above everything. And that was when like I did the whole period of just reading the Bible, like reflecting upon my own experience and asking myself moving forward how I want to do things differently. Like this was something that I chose to do and chose to follow, and it's different from how I've lived life previously. And to say the least, it's been such a like breath of fresh air from how I used to live life and how I used to see life, because no longer am I afraid of the truth. And when they say the truth sets you free, which is what the Bible speaks about, I'm no longer afraid of like the possible outcomes of the current choices that I'm making now. So I'm no longer afraid of the future, if that makes sense. Like I'm more focused and I'm more interested in what's right in front of me and being honest with myself about everything that I'm doing. And in doing so, being okay with whatever unfolds in front of me afterwards. I no longer like fear it. I no longer does it like weigh so heavy on me now, because I've chosen to live by like my own truth above all. And yeah, man, going back to how I used to live life then, and how when I used to fear the truth so much because I was scared I might hurt someone's feelings, or I was scared that like, I don't know, a relationship might finish, or I was scared that like I might lose something or lose out on something or whatever it might be. That was so, in closing, I realized that like a lot of the way that I viewed the world in that manner was because of my upbringing, and a lot of that had to do with religion and how religion shaped my household and inevitably shaped myself. And I think that is why probably sometimes I do go so ham at religion, and like I really try to like reason with it so much, because I've seen how it's shaped again, like myself. And I don't think that that's what religion actually stands for. And I don't think that that's what like these religious texts are here for. And I think it does it such an injustice. And I think maybe the reason why it can be so misleading is because of the idea that it's a religion in itself, and because there's so many other different sects, like you really want to get as many people on board with your one so that you can drive the narrative that this is the right one. Do you see what I'm saying? And I think if you can somehow misconstrue what religion is trying to tell people and flip the narrative so that it works in your favor to keep people in fear of leaving, then it's not the religious text that's the problem. It might be religion itself. And if you can't see that, or if you can't understand that and step away and instead do it for yourself, then yeah, I don't know, man. I don't know what it would take. But again, like, there's certain things, I guess, in place for people because that's what works for them. And I think if they're able to understand life through that lens, and if they can, I guess, build a good and happy life around that, and one that works for them, at the same time, like, who am I to take that away from them, and who am I to tell them any different too? Like, this is just what works for me at the end of the day. And you also have to be accepting, and you also have to tolerate like what other people is true to them too. Do you know what I'm saying? Because that's also part of the subjective truth, and I can't take that away from no one. I just have to accept it, and I guess it's up to me, like, to decide how much I can tolerate, like up to what level and up to what threshold, until, I don't know. I just kind of feel like it's probably enough for just one day, innit? And then we can come back again to this tomorrow. But yeah, man, it is kind of tough though, man. You kind of want people to be on the same kind of just level, and and you just want people to be on the same boat, like, just throughout. But I guess it's not always the case. It's quite tough. But anyways, like, I do say religion quite hard, and I do obviously go quite harsh on it because of those kind of factors of it all. But I think if you do take it in for yourself though, and if you do pick one and decide to actually take time to study it yourself, because religion is also that too. Like, religion is, it's a commitment, fam, and I think it's a commitment to taking your time out, taking time out of your day, sorry, or week or month or however you want to do it, to really actually learn and study it and understand it for what you can understand it to be. I think it's probably the best way to, like, actually learn it, and it's definitely the best way to build a positive relationship with having this as one of your set of fundamental rules to guide life. Because I was having this conversation the other day with one of my boys about just life in general, and how life really is like a fine balance of many things at once, right? And just as an example, like, literally one that I gave earlier, is that you can't have good times without bad times. Like, you can't be happy without being sad. You can't, I don't know, understand what having abundance is if you have nothing. Like, those kind of concepts, and it flows into everything, where you can't have freedom without having, like, a set of guides or rules to follow. And I think Jordan Peterson put it in a very beautiful example, where he was talking about this to Joe Rogan, and he says to him, let's play a game. I think it was Joe Rogan. He's like, let's play a game. And Rogan's like, all right, cool. And he was like, cool, you make the first move. And then Rogan's just kind of like, okay, but, like, what's the move? Like, what do I do? Where do I go? Like, what's like, I don't get it. And Peterson's just like, make the first move. And he's like, right, but, like, how though? Like, what am I doing there? And then Peterson was like, well, that's exactly how freedom works, isn't it? Like, if now I was to give you a set of rules and instructions on how to play the game, now you can move, and you can do so in your own manner and do it creatively in your own way. And that is freedom, innit? Like, you now have the space to operate and head in a direction and actually do something and create something. So I think what religion can serve as a purpose then in life is exactly that, like, a set of guides and a set of rules and a set of instructions that you can have as a fundamental base to allow you to maneuver through life and find your own way of doing it, whether that's creatively, whether that's through family, whether that's through your career, whatever it might be, like, whatever it might be. And yeah, man, I think it has a positive purpose and it can have that positive impact. But again, like, it comes from understanding, or trying to get a deeper understanding for yourself, and not just also of the text, but of yourself too. Like, whatever you read, you really have to put into action. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, you really do have to take time out of your day then to, like, think about things of your past and, like, why they happened and how did that make you feel, and if it were to happen again, like, how would you do things slightly differently, and, like, basically do your absolute best to just heal from everything so that you can really start letting go of like things that hold you back and things from your past that like you feel currently shape you and maybe you might not be happy with, and that's causing friction in your life or whatever it is. And in doing so, you free yourself, and you can only do that really and truly by being honest with yourself and seeking the truth. So this is what seeking the truth is about. It's not just about being honest with words. Like, it's about being honest with actions. It's about being honest with yourself and how you view yourself and how you view the world, and being honest with how you feel about that and how you would like it to be and what you're currently doing or not doing to make sure that that is the case. Or do you see what I'm saying? Like, honesty and truth is very deep when you go into it like thoroughly. So this is what these religious texts have taught me, and that's what I get from it. And in doing so, like, I've very much lifted the burden of judging myself so heavily and holding myself like with shame for like a lot of the decisions that I made in life, and carrying that burden around with me, because really and truly there's no need, fam. And if I can start viewing myself in that manner, like, I find it easy now to view other people in that manner too. And I have a lot more patience for people. I have a lot more time for people. I have a lot more like love and energy for people, and it's nice. It's uplifting. Like, I've met many new people, some like proper stand-up people, and made some new friends. And yeah, man, life becomes a little bit more different. It gives a little bit more. It feels a little bit more like fruitful. And even if it's just the little things too, like, hey, I never had them before, so I can definitely make do with it now, fam. So yeah. So there were many things in my day that, like, not my day, my week, that made me want to speak about this. And I'm kind of happy that I did, because it also served as a reminder that I'm doing what I feel like is the right thing to do for me. Like, when I sit down and think about whether the choices that I'm making are good and bad, and whether they are choices that I want to make, I feel satisfied and happy to be able to say that I think that is the case, or I know that's the case. And that right now is more important to me than not saying certain things, not speaking the truth about certain things because I'm scared for what may happen to my life, or because I'm scared of what the reaction might be. And I'm okay with that. I'm happy with that. It's a choice that I've decided to make for myself, and it works for me. It makes me feel like I'm giving back something positive. And I think that's more important than fearing the truth and speaking up about it because of what the consequences might be. So yeah, I think that kind of concludes views from religion, you know. I really wanted to, in this issue, outline and shape how religion can shape two different views completely through the same message. One being conveyed in a particular way, the other being understood through the objective of discovering the truth. And I think that is two very separate things. No wonder why the outcome is two very separate things as well. And I guess what I wanted to do was highlight the importance of why, if you are going to go down the religion route, you make the right choice of how you go down it. And you don't just follow it blindly, because it really can obscure life, I'd say. Yeah, and I guess I've just been lucky to have a fair share of the experience of both now. Like, one was for a good 24 years of my life, 25, and the other's only been about a year and a half. But in that year and a half, those are my most mature years. So I feel like I actually learned quite a lot. And this is where I currently am at right now. And never have I been in a position able to even address and speak about the two from an outside point of view and just kind of try to not be biased. So, yeah, that's jokes. I think objective complete. I'm quite happy with how that's come out, to be fair. And yeah, man, I just kind of wanted to let people know that that's a real thing and that really does happen. And I think you have to be aware and open enough to understand these concepts and make these choices for yourself, because at the end of the day, you want to feel like you're in control and you want to feel like you know what you're doing, but we don't always know what we're doing, and we're not always in control. But at least what we can do is just be as aware and as conscious in these moments to understand why certain things are happening, so you can kind of just be better equipped. Do you know what I'm saying? And yeah, man, just carry that with you at all times, because life's not easy, man. And yeah, man, you want to at least make sure you're on top of as much as you can be. So yeah, man, we'll leave it there with it. That's issue 32, views from religion. So I hope that was something.